Hi, this is Billy Brown. I'm a nature writer with Grid Magazine and with phillynature.org, and I get maybe excessively excited about Philadelphia fleabanes. Philadelphia fleabanes are a type of aster, or you might think of them as a daisy. These are little white flowers or lavender flowers or pink flowers with yellow centers. We are here next to Cobbs Creek, next to the Cobbs Creek Environmental Center, which is a great place to see a lot of vegetation, including right now, Philadelphia fleabanes. But we really could be almost anywhere in the city. These things pop up in your garden, they pop up like along the sidewalk. These are tough urban plants that just happen to be in a relatively natural setting like this, but are all over the city and just in a lot of places that are easy to observe. They are perennial flowers. They come up from the same base year after year. They flower in the spring, really starting towards the end of April, and some of them carrying on even into June. We're sitting here looking at a whole bunch of different little bees, some hoverflies, a lot of bugs enjoying the pollen and the nectar that these guys are putting out. So they are on the long list of native plants that support a lot of bug diversity here in Philadelphia. One of the reasons I love these flowers is their name. They're not the Baltimore fleabane, they're not the Phoenix fleabane, they're not the Chicago fleabane. They are the Philadelphia fleabane. As much as I would love to say that something about Philadelphia is really great for daisies, the reason they got named the Philadelphia fleabane is in the mid-1700s, a Swedish explorer scientist was here sending samples back to his home country, and Linnaeus, who is a famous taxonomist and botanist in the mid-1700s, named the fleabanes after where his buddy mailed them back from, basically. So that's how they got the name Philadelphia fleabane. These guys, they'll flower from the end of April, maybe even into the beginning of June, and then you might say, oh no, they're gone, but don't fret, there are more fleabanes that pop up. There's annual fleabanes or something called Robin's plantain, which is actually a different fleabane. And then beyond those, you get other types of these daisies or asters that pop up from our sidewalk cracks and vacant lots and weedy patches of our gardens throughout the year. Some of these are called heath asters. There's one called a panicled aster later in the year. And sometimes people who like plants call them little white asters because they're hard to tell apart. But a lot of them are still really valuable to the smaller critters that live in Philadelphia. So as you get to the end of the fall, even some of these little white asters, the heath asters, for example, then you'll see them covered with bees and covered with monarch butterflies and buckeye butterflies and a whole lot of critters that are relying on them for some late season nectar and pollen. And so these are a great way to get connected to how, even in our most urban places in the city, flowers are part of a web of life that are easy to overlook. If you really want to get into how to tell these apart and learn more about them, you want to pay attention to some of the smaller details on these. So this can get really far into the weeds. When you're looking at Philadelphia fleabanes, one of the ways you know it's a Philadelphia fleabane is how the leaves attach to the stems. So they sort of almost wrap around the stem a little bit. Sometimes this is called clasping, for how the leaves attach to the stems. You don't have to get that far into the details. You can say, hey, these are nice, pretty little flowers that are all over the city and bugs dig them. But yeah, if you want to get more into how to tell flowers apart and plants apart, this is a great place to start because they're accessible. In a park like this, you might not be allowed to pick the flowers, but when you see these guys popping out of your sidewalk crack in front of your house, you can probably pick those. I have found also that they're not so hard to grow in my garden. I haven't grown them from seed yet. What I've done is when I've been in situations where they're getting weeded out, or they're growing where you don't want them to grow, I just dig them out of the clump of soil and plant them in my garden, and they've taken pretty well. So again, this is a plant that you can enjoy where they happen to spring up, or you can enjoy them where you plant them intentionally as part of a native garden. If you want to learn more about plants in our area, check out the Philadelphia Botanical Club. It's a great organization. They meet regularly. It's a great bunch of people to get to know and go on plant walks and learn more about what plants are growing in Philadelphia and areas around Philadelphia. Also, a lot of our nature centers have plant walks, which are great ways to get connected to the plants near you. This has been a production of Grid Magazine and phillynature.org. To learn more about nature in Philadelphia, check out phillynature.org. And of course, make sure you subscribe to Grid Magazine and support environmental journalism right here in Philadelphia. Thanks.